Welcome to this Tech Tip Tuesday webinar on writing effective AI prompts. My name is Candace Nelson. I'm a teaching and learning specialist here at St. Leo University's Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence, and I'm very passionate about leveraging AI technologies in the classroom in an effective and efficient way. So not just using a new technology because it exists, but using it in a way that will actually make your life easier and help you accomplish things on a grander scale. So the first step on this journey to harnessing the power of AI is learning how to talk to it, or in this case, the word is prompt it. So prompting is where you're crafting your task for the AI to do, how you talk to it. And there's very particular ways you want to do this because the quality of output that you get from an AI is directly related to the quality of input or the quality of your prompt. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want you to do is kind of take a moment and think about a time when you asked an AI to write or create something. The result was, let's say, unexpected, or let's face it, disappointing. It just didn't live up to the standards you were expecting this magical robot to do. For me, that situation was I was teaching high school and I wanted to make some articles about different art movements from across the timeline. And at first, when I generated these readings, they were long-winded, they were citing artists that weren't relevant, and honestly, they were using a language level that was not at my students' level. It was not where they needed. It wasn't meeting them where they were. And it was really quite frustrating. And on top of all that, it just wasn't making the connections that I was hoping that it would make. So the problem was, and usually is, my prompt, or the prompt that we use. When I was talking to the AI, I was too ambiguous. My prompt was incomplete. It was something like, create a reading about Cubism, and that was it. I didn't give it much instruction beyond that. And so the result I got was unpredictable and undesirable, and it wasted a lot of time and effort because I had to figure out, well, what did I do wrong? Edit all the text. It really wasn't as efficient or effective as I wanted it to be. So what is a good prompt and what is a bad prompt? So an ineffective prompt or a bad prompt, it lacks context and specificity. AI cannot read your mind. So the more vague you leave your prompt, the more room you leave for it to make up whatever it wants. And it will fill in the blanks for you as best it can. And I also didn't give it enough information. I just expected it to know what I was thinking about when I thought about Cubism. I didn't tell it to talk about Pablo Picasso. I didn't tell it to talk about it from a specific lens, like the principles and elements of art. I didn't tell it how long I wanted it to be. I didn't want a 3-page essay. I wanted a 1-paragraph comparison at a 10th grade reading level. And I didn't tell it that, so that's not what I got. A good prompt gives it context and a role. So you tell it who you are, or you tell it who you want it to be. So tell it that you're, a teacher of what level. You tell it the context that this is going to be, a reading material or whatever it is. It's an email. It's going to a colleague, whatever. It's clearly defined and detailed. You give it all the information it needs to complete the task. So for that, you really have to know what you want the end to look like. Otherwise, we end up with information or an output that's just ambiguous and it's not what we wanted. So here's some examples. So here's an ineffective prompt. So create an outline for a module on linear equations. I told it that I wanted a module on linear equations, but I didn't say how long that module was. I didn't say what my timelines were. I didn't specify any types of activities. I didn't tell it to give me any specific text or questions or how do I even want it formatted? So an effective prompt, I am a freshman college math teacher. Create a 1-week module on quadratic functions. Include active learning strategies and format as a bulleted list. So in this example, I've given it a role. I've told it who I was. that I taught college, that I'm a math teacher, and my audience is freshmen. I gave it a timeline that this should be a 1-week module. I gave it specific instructions on what to do, including like I need to have active learning strategies, and I want it formatted as a bulleted list so that I can absorb this information quickly. So here's a really quick framework to follow. So this is called the RTF framework, and it stands for role. So R and RTF stands for role. Describe who the AI should be or who you are. So I could say, I could ask the AI to take on my role. I could say, you are a teaching and learning specialist at a university. Or you could say, I am a teaching and learning specialist here at the university. So you can word it in whichever way, but it gives it context and a role to play. Task. Tell it exactly what you want it to do in detail. Give it specifics. Don't leave things out. Format. So the F stands for format. Describe what the output should look like. Do you want it as a bulleted list, a 500-word blog post, a Word document? Do you want it to visualize it as a table? Is this an image? Do you want it to create like an oil painting or a realistic photograph? You have to tell it exactly what you want it to look like at the end, or else it will make assumptions. So let's take a look at some examples of this in action. So role, you are a graduate professor, or I am an undergraduate professor. Those are two ways to word the role portion of the RTF. Task, create a 50-minute lesson plan with an intro activity, formative assessment, and exit activity on constructivism. So I give it the topic, the format I want it to follow. I gave it the timeline of how long things should be. So now the formatted as an outline that includes estimated times. Okay, so it's going to give me everything that I asked for. Now, this doesn't mean that it's going to magically pull from my brain and I'll get the exact thing that I would want. It does require you to go back and re-prompt it, say, I like this, but could you change this? Think of it as a collaborator. So we work with people every day on the daily. So if you were giving feedback to a coworker, how would you do it for them? So if they gave you something that maybe there's some things that could be changed, this is the way that you need to talk to AI so that you get what you want. So once you've generated your content, give it feedback and then have it regenerate. So the strengths of this framework that I'm teaching you is that this is user-friendly. RTF is very easy to follow. You just have to remember to give it your role or a role, give it a task that's detailed, and a format. So there's other ones out there, but this one is probably the most flexible, which is why I'm teaching it to you. And if you're just now getting into AI, and that AI world can be pretty scary when you're first jumping into it, it's a great starting point. It's where I started from, and it really got me comfortable with the idea of using AI. So I wanted to present it to you guys today. So the best uses that I found for it, it's great. This format's good for generating email templates. So I am an undergraduate professor of art. Create an email for my students to remind them about their upcoming exams and due dates. Here they are. Please leave placeholders for my name, position, and the university. Role-playing scenarios. You could have an interactive chat. So sometimes it's fun to create a persona. You could say you are a artist, you specialize in cubism, you know everything there is about Pablo Picasso, and you could have a chat back and forth with someone who's an expert in Pablo Picasso, and you can live demo that for your class. You could use it to help spark ideas for a lesson. It's a really cool way to just come up with some cool ideas or to have people interact with a character. Research analysis, you could have it analyze data, look at different texts, and come up with summaries. You could say you are a college professor, you are a college student, you need to analyze some literature, here's the literature, please summarize this for me and compare and contrast it. What connections do you see between these things? And it will give you a list. Now, double check it because, again, AI can hallucinate. It does not hallucinate as much as it used to, but either way, always evaluate your output. Don't trust it on its own. Always check. I love to use it for lesson ideas. So when I'm developing a CTL or a course, I'm really looking for ideas in that initial stage. So I'll have it act as my co-instructional designer. I'll give it some information and we'll pass ideas back and forth and then develop lessons together, lesson plans, unit plans, module plans. All right, so the weaknesses of this is that it's not suited for like really intricate tasks unless you're using follow-ups. So there are other frameworks that are developed for more intricate tasks, but here are some things that you can do, some adjustments to your prompt that you can make. So if it gives you a still vague output after using RTF, try this, follow up with an example. So you could tell it, use this example as a model. So use this following example blog post as a model, and it'll model its response after what you gave it. Inclusion. So you could say, make sure to include references to the elements of art, or make sure you focus on the element of form or the principle of contrast. And I'll give it a spot to really hone in on. Or exclude. Make sure that you exclude any information about line or shape, because we've already talked about that. Make sure you exclude any biographical information because we want to focus just on the artwork and the way that it looks. Or you could say, follow up with like a step-by-step. You could have it create a step-by-step for you. So if it's saying, we're going to do this activity, you could say, well, could you create a step-by-step for me on how to do this activity and set it up? Or you could say, please create a step-by-step for me. So you could say also, here is a step-by-step. Follow this step-by-step format when creating this lesson plan. So you could ask it for a step-by-step, or you could give it one to follow. So these are great ways to adjust your prompt after you do your initial to help you get a more refined version. So RTF framework summary, so you have the role, who you are, who you want the AI to be, the task that you want it to do in significant detail, and format. Describe what the output should look like. So imagine what it should look like when it's printed out or what you want, and make sure that you tell it.
Okay, so I want to do an example for you guys. So first I'm going to pull up my chatbot. In this case, I'm going to use Copilot. At the end, I'll show you how to navigate to Copilot. It's free. You can find it on your university OneDrive. But to help you with prompt creation, I'm going to start out with an ineffective prompt. So I'm going to do this around a lesson plan. I'm going to try to get Copilot to make a lesson plan for me. So create a lesson plan comparing Pablo Picasso and Vincent van Gogh. I'm giving it absolutely no other context. Not what grade I teach, not how long my classes are, not how long I want this lesson plan to be for, or the kinds of assessments or activities I want, just kind of a generic thing. And what I got back in response was something generic. It gave me, 2 class periods at 90 minutes each, and a high school grade level, which is not what we're looking for. We are looking for collegiate level. It did give out some materials and art supplies, which is great. But in essence, all of this is extremely vague. There's not a lot of, if it says ask questions, it doesn't give you the questions. If it says discussion, it doesn't really give you much of a discussion topic. And that leads to frustration because essentially I could have done that on my own and it's not giving me much to start with. So let's go ahead and use the RTF framework. So role, task, format. And I'm going to also add some little additions like inclusion and exclusion. So here we go. You are a college history professor who teaches incoming freshmen. So there's my role. Create a one-day lesson plan that compares Pablo Picasso and Cubism to Vincent van Gogh and Post-Impressionism. Include discussions, analysis, active learning strategies. Please include all question text and discussion questions. Exclude homework. Include any documents they may need. Format this as a bulleted list with estimated times. So it's very clear. It does take more work on the front end to craft that prompt, but the more time you take and the better you write it, the more accurate your output will be and the less you have to spend in reiterations and rework throughs. So let's take a look at what it generated. I probably should have defined the time. That is one area in my prompt that was a weakness. It says 90 minutes. We would want somewhere between 50 and 80 minutes, so I'll have to refine that. Let's take a look. So it says discussion, presentation of artworks, analysis, group presentations. So it's a little more detailed this time, including group activities, things like that. Even the questions, so discussion questions. What challenges did you face in trying to emulate these styles? How did you incorporate these elements into your work? So there are questions to discuss. It is a little more specific. This is a better launching place for me. So now I'm going to try to refine it just a little bit. At the end it has a list of documents, but it doesn't tell me what's on those documents. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask it to please give me the biographical information handouts in a Word document. So I'm always going to test the AI and see how far it will go. Not all AIs can generate Word documents. Sometimes they'll generate something that you can copy and paste into a Word document, and sometimes they'll just say no. But you don't know until you try, so let's give it a shot. Here it did a copy and paste sort of situation, but let's see if we can push it further. Please give this to me in a Word document file. Let's see, and include, let's see if I can get it to add some information into it as well. So let's see not only if it can make the Word document, but if it will add a little bit more. So what I'm demonstrating here is refining my prompt a bit more, honing in on some particulars. It is not generating the Word document itself, but it did give me a more detailed thing. So it does say, I will create a Word document with this information for you, so please hold on a moment. So I'm going to, that means that it probably can. I probably just need to ask it again. So let's see. Please. And here we go. So sometimes it just takes a little more reiteration of what you want. And it actually will create the Word document for me. So I probably would have given up on the first time it told me no, but I had a feeling it was something in the way that I worded it, because it would say, I will create this Word document for you. So here it is. So it says biographical information, Picasso, Van Gogh. So I'm going to go ahead and click it. And here we are. And I'll pull this up for you guys as soon as it loads. Alright, and here we are, and it's beautifully formatted in a way. It used at least some of the styles from Word. It divided everything out. It's very nice and put together. This is a great base for me to work from and then add my own flair to. So this is one way that you can use it. Now I demonstrated with lesson plans, but you can do this with email, you can do this with whatever task. The limit's really like, what can you imagine? Test it out. If you want to know if an AI can do this, give it a shot. So if I wanted to say, can you visualize this as a table? I don't even know what this would completely look like. But let's take a look and see if Copilot can visualize this information as a table for me. And it looks like it's going to put it in a Word document. All of the AIs can do this. Some are free, some are paid. Just make sure, you test it and figure out what it can and can't do. So I'm not going to say that, if you have the free GPT, it's going to create a Word document for you. But you never know unless you ask. So here we go, let's take a look. And that's actually pretty beautiful. It's very well organized. It really depends on your taste, what you like aesthetically, but it's something that you can do, which is pretty neat. Okay, so in the next section, I'm going to have you guys actually test this out, thinking of something that you could use AI for and apply the role task format. Again, it doesn't have to be a lesson plan or a module or an activity. You can apply it to something like writing an email to, a colleague, a student, a friend, or even whatever you want. Have it visualize a table of information, give it some information, have it visualize it, or summarize some text for you. Whatever you want to do that would be useful to you. But remember, it's role. Give it a role who you are, or tell it what you want it to be. Give it the task in as much detail as you can give it, and then the format that you want it presented to you in.
So try it out. Think of something that you need, a lesson, an email, etc. Write a prompt with RTF and any of the adjustment strategies, and then review your output and ask some refining questions. I hope you have fun with this technique, and happy prompting!